These days I find that our society is filled with clashing egos, and I wonder, how can I get rid of my ego? How can a human being get rid of their ego?
How do we get rid of our ego? Yep. Once you begin to see all of the problems and the pain that it creates for you and for everybody around you, then you want to find a way to get rid of the source of the suffering. And most spiritual systems say that you need to eradicate egoism. It's the problem. But you know, it's kind of the problem and the solution. Let's look at it. Before you can do anything about the ego, you need to identify what egoism is, because it doesn't exist in and of itself. Everything in existence, all of the components of what we call creation, is just the will to receive. Everything's made out of that desire. It's our very substance, and it's already perfect, and it doesn't need to change, and in fact, it can't be changed. So the problem is not that we're created to receive. After all, since the nature of the higher creative force is bestowal, then obviously we have got to be reception. Otherwise, we'd never be able to sense what it's giving us. That our life consists of receiving pleasure, that's just a fact of nature. It's neutral. It's not good and it's not bad. Egoism is the intention that a person has about the purpose of that receiving. The word Kabbalah itself means reception. The science of Kabbalah is the method of how to receive correctly in all of our desires. Basically, if the reason that I'm receiving is to satisfy myself, then that's egoism. If my reason for receiving is to fulfill another, then it becomes giving to that person and ultimately to the upper force, to the Creator. But we can never do that naturally. It's something that can only be achieved above our nature and not by destroying or suppressing it. Things grow only as a result of the expansion of desire, and we're purposely given our desires in their egoistic form. It's our only tool. And it's only by expanding the ego and then correcting it that we could ever reach a state in which we would be able to exit it. And it's this process, like rungs of a ladder, that allow us to gradually encompass and attain all of reality and achieve an identical nature as the upper force. The outer action doesn't change, only the intention behind it, and that's enough. Because on the causal upper force level, intention is the only action. Imagine that there are two best friends, and one invites the other over for dinner. Because of his love for his dear friend, the host prepares a meal made of only the dishes and delicacies that he knows will satisfy him. Everything's arranged to entertain and to please his friend. Now, the guest arrives, and he sees a perfect feast laid out in front of him. And then he suddenly realizes that his friend is the ultimate giver in this situation, and that he's there just to receive. He admits to the host that he's overwhelmed by shame, and he refuses to eat. And the host says, "You don't understand. I prepared all of this just for you because I wanted you to enjoy all these things, so you'd know how much I like you. And if you don't eat, it'll spoil the whole evening for me." And then it dawns on the guest that the success of the dinner is really in his hands. And if he eats in order to please the host, then he's actually a giver. So he begins to eat and enjoy so that the host will receive the delight from all of the things that he intended and prepared for the guest. And in fact, by doing that, he even attains the mind of the host. Because now he's got the identical intention and love towards the host as the host has towards him. We are surrounded by a sea of light. We're constantly being given, and we're constantly receiving. So we constantly have an opportunity to feel and correct our egoism. Ah, some pop in a fancy glass. Here's to you. Well, that's just a little explanation. If you really want to know more, check out these links.